Hey everyone, and welcome to an all-new episode of Wicked Unscripted Patreon edition.
Yay!
My name is Abigail Adams. I am your host for this podcast. Joining me, as always, is Sarah Talks Big Brother.
In the flesh.
I mean, this is one of my favorite. I can't believe we're doing this still.
This is so unreal to me.
You're actually catching us at the end of our trip, too. We have done so much together.
Yeah.
And now we finally get to end everything with this Patreon exclusive. This is a fun one. It's top BB duos. So as always, I'll let Sarah kind of talk about how this works.
Yeah. So this top 10 list has been put together by our panel of super fans. Abigail has been sent 5. I have been sent 5, and neither one of us knows which 5 the other one has. And we're going to count them down for you guys. And this week we are talking top 10 BB duos. I don't think that we made the list, although I feel like we should have. But
We're a little disappointed.
We did tell the panel we wanted top 10 BB duos because here's, your big brother TikTok duo in the flesh for you. So we knew we would be recording this. We actually leave for the airport in 2 hours. It is 1:00 in the morning here. So it should be a fun one. We might get a little delirious at some moments, but we're going to get through it. Yeah. But we are together. We're doing this together, and we're so excited to bring this to you. And I think you're actually starting this off with number 10.
So at number 10, we have The Renegades with Dan and Memphis from season 10. I thought this was an interesting pick. Great pick, first of all.
Yeah.
One of the more iconic ones. I always find this is an interesting pairing because they didn't link up until end of week 4. And for their season, that was a short season. They only had, I think, 10 or 11 weeks. So that was pretty close to mid-game that they were teaming up with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it came after both of them found themselves in hot water around the Jesse eviction. At first, it was that Memphis was the target, and then all of a sudden Memphis didn't go home, and it was because of Dan. And that's kind of how they ended up linking up.
I mean, it was because of America, but
well,
okay. Yeah.
Well, correct, because Dan was America's player.
Yeah.
And that was, I thought that was a really awesome, like
number
generic
10,
thing
though,
to happen.
I'm surprised they weren't higher, I guess. I don't know.
I think it's right placement.
That's true. I have a little bit of bias with that season just because there were just so many iconic things in that season.
Maybe 10 is a little low, but I'd still keep it in my my bottom 10 for my top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's a great one. I did love I feel like that duo, Jesse's eviction, like it's come up in the last 3 episodes.
We talk about it all the time at this point.
It's gonna just make every top 10 at this point. Remember, we don't come up with this list.
Jesse Goddard just lives rent-free in all of our heads.
He's just on every top 10.
But yeah, so I really liked it. They're also the first alliance of their kind to make the final 2 fully intact.
Okay.
So I think it's interesting. That's a really another iconic thing. I didn't really realize that till I was doing my research, and I think that's awesome. It's interesting to see that it took until season 10 for that to happen, though.
Yeah.
But even thinking back, I mean, like Danielle and Jason didn't get to the final 2 together. Boogie and Will didn't get to the final 2 together. There's like Kaser and Janelle didn't do the final 2 together. There's a lot of iconic people that didn't make the final 2 despite how incredible they were.
Yeah.
So
I'm just trying to think through. That is interesting. Yeah. I have a different, I knew Memphis from watching the previous seasons, but then I really knew Memphis covering 22, and it just kind of everything hits different now.
Yeah. So. It was fun then.
It was
lots of fun. And still really when you go back and rewatch, it was a good watch.
Yeah. I mean everything about that season was, but not 2210, but
correct. Very
Let's
correct.
Be very fucking clear
here.
Here.
Absolutely correct. But that's pretty much all I have for number 10.
Yeah. So then I'll just jump right into number 9, which is a duo that made it to the final 2. I just don't know that they're your typical kind of duo, which is Allison and June from season 4.
Bit more unconventional than the last one.
A little bit more unconventional. And just, for maybe the newer fans out there. So in week 4, Allison nominated June as a pawn to get Dana out. And they were like enemies.
Like oil and water sometimes.
Yeah, like they knew from the very beginning that they were not going to get along, that they hardly could work together. But then in week 6, they kind of formed this final 2 where they knew like they needed each other to get to the end, even though they didn't want to work together. They weren't besties or anything. This is one of those rare examples in Big Brother where like I'm acknowledging that your game suits me and my game suits you. We don't like each other. I mean, even Julie said, would y'all be friends outside of the house? And they're like, no, hard pass. No. And they did form this final 2 alliance. They just realized that they were each other's easiest opponents to beat each other in front of the jury, knowing that the jury was going to have unsavory opinions about both of them. So they both knew that they were like villains of the season and they wanted to face the jury together, which sounds very similar to a situation we're kind of in now. It's just, I wouldn't call what we're in now with Bowie and Jag being an iconic duo or anything.
No.
But Bowie and Jag are kind of going in with that same mindset that the jury will equally hate them both. And so they feel like they have the best chance up next to each other. But that's kind of where Allison and June were at. It's just they were better game players. They formed the Girl Power Alliance with Erica. June actually won her first HOH in week 8. And then her ex, G, was actually in the show. So we were talking about the X Factor earlier which is funny. We were just talking about the X Factor in the post-show episode live earlier. But anyway, she got him out of the house. And because of their deal, June and Allison actually made it to final 2. And June was crowned the winner in a 6-1 vote. Because the jury saw her the lesser of the 2 evils, to quote BB Wiki, which I thought that was a good way to put it. They just like, well, we hate June less than we do Allison, so that's ultimately why they ended up voting for her.
Cooking strategy worked for her too,
yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah,
it wasn't the only reason, but like it was one of the things that did sway stuff
because they had nothing else. Like they had nothing else to go off of because they did not make any friends in the jury house, that's for sure.
One of the duos that didn't land on this list is the Minutemen, and you just talked earlier about it. It's like God, like just about Bowie and Jag specifically, but it just made me think, and I'm like, oh shit, are the Minutemen gonna end up being on people's top 2 duos list? Because I'm a pass on that one.
Yeah, hard pass.
I will absolutely pass. Want me to jump in with number 8? Okay, so number 8 is Tyler and Casey from season 20. This is our first.
I like that one. I like that pick. I know that that's very mixed emotions there, but
no. I mean, I respect it. I think this is one that I could have maybe flopped with the Renegades. I also love a duo without a name.
Yes.
They're not the only ones on this list, but I really do love a duo without a name because it feels like so forced. I know we have to like do like alliance names all the time with Big Brother, but when it's a duo, it's like, can't we just go by their names and just call it good? I don't need to like, because like I was looking through for notes and like I forgot that like Derek and Xavier called themselves the Root, and I was like, or we could just say Derek and Xavier. Like I feel like we didn't really hear much
look
about
at season
that,
25 and trying to cover the season with that Onion alliance that we start off with, the family style and
trying to explain that was
oh my god
ride. But so Tyler and Casey were very, very similar players. But had ultimately different grasps on the game. They were both very physically competitive.
Yes.
But Casey's showed up much more in the end game, whereas Tyler's was kind of spread out throughout the whole season. They also both had incredible social bonds, but the difference is how they used those social bonds to try and win the game. And one of the things that you and I were talking about is Tyler, thinking he was making the best decisions, was going to people and letting them know if they were getting blindsided, if they weren't sure.
It's so funny that a lot of these came up in our discussion about season 25 earlier.
I know it did. It's so
that's
funny.
So funny, but
lots of overlap.
Yeah. They definitely had 2 completely different jury management styles. And as we saw this play out, Casey's won out because Tyler took the approach of breaking the news to the house guests as they're walking out, but also doing it in a way like he couldn't help it.
Yep. Where it was like, it's not on my
It's not on me. It's just I couldn't get the votes there. I couldn't get you the votes. And Casey more or less owned it. And it was kind of like a Paul Josh situation.
Yep.
So
people get mad, and we've talked again about bitter jury, and it's like, but this is why jury management is so important, because Tyler and Casey were so similar in gameplay throughout the season. That was the major sticking point, was that relationship that they have with jury management. And it's why when people like Jag on BB25 are like, jury management doesn't matter, it's like, please go back and look at this. And I just would argue to the nines that, like, that's not true. And I think it was also interesting to see just how much they were splitting the jury, because it was a close vote. It was a 5-4 vote. Yep. So, like, that's how much jury management plays into this.
Oh, do you remember when votes weren't unanimous?
Oh, I miss it. Oh, it was so enjoyable. It's been a while. We used to be like, oh my God, a unanimous winner. This never happened. Now it's like, whatever. I mean, I don't mind.
Not just winner votes, but like
in general.
We haven't, with the exception of what you said earlier in the other episode was Suri couldn't vote against Jared or Izzy. Suri's been the only one that's voted against the house, but every single vote this season's been unanimous.
Since the Red blindside was the last big thing where it was Bowie and Cam who weren't in on it. Yeah. And that was it.
Yeah.
That wasn't even
the year of unanimous votes. And I just, like, a 5-4 finale vote. Ugh, I'm here for it, man.
So we only have a 7-person jury this year. I need a 4-3. Give me a 4-3.
It's not going to happen, babe. It's not going to happen. If they can't get the unanimous shit to stop inside the house, they're definitely not going to do it in finale night.
Oh my God. It's so sad. But it is. It's what you get with this cast. It is what it is. But yeah, so Tyler and Casey are number 8 from season 20.
So for number 7, I have Brenchel.
That's low. I love it.
I do love it. I love it. I would personally rank them a lot higher.
Same. No offense. Love y'all. I love they're on the list.
Yeah, I love that they made the list. Brandon and Rachel. It's the showmates that's still giving, and they're giving BB babies, and they're giving post, their season BB content, and Rachel is still very involved, and I love it. Rachel, what people like, we remember her for the iconic player. We saw her in Traders. Like, she's just really good at these games. She actually didn't do great in season 12. She was out week 5 after she was put up against her showmates, Brendan. When they came back for season 13, they were actually engaged. They got married on live television. Yep. It was a big event on live television. A lot of people don't know that after season 13. Finished airing. But in season 13, when they returned as a duo, Rachel fucking dominated. Win comp after comp after comp. And I actually put this in here. She won 6 comps. And fun fact, between 12 and 13, Rachel has won every single endurance comp she's ever participated in.
I love that.
I love that.
I love her.
But we were talking about competition stuff earlier, and like how we need more diversity in that area. And Rachel did well in physical and mental comps.
Yes.
She did well overall. Like, that is what my definition of a comp beast truly would be.
Yes.
Versus like Jag, who has won 8 competitions, all of which, every single one of them, except for his 7 of those 8 were pure physical.
Yep.
Pure physical. And 4 of those 8, 50% of those were the exact same competition over and over. It was memorizing something and running around with the answer. So Rachel's always going to be like a true comp beast to me, but her and Brendan and her crying over him, and then the Pandora's box twist, and like, it was so obnoxious and everyone hated it, but you love to love it. You love to hate it. And then going back and watching it again and loving the iconery that they gave us.
Iconicness.
Ugh.
So great.
Yeah, they are currently married, and they have 2 kids, and maybe one season we'll have a season of BB babies.
I need a BB baby season.
Yeah, BB baby
real
season.
Bad.
We're gonna be real old, but
we'll be doing
it.
I remember back in my day. I remember when Rachel was actually on the show.
Yeah, I love them. I love them so much. I did not like them when I first saw.
Oh, I'll be so upfront and honest. When they were on their seasons, when they were on Amazing Race, I hated them.
Mm-hmm.
I have grown up
Uh-huh.
and had a new respect for them since then. And, you know, I've grown to have a new respect for Rachel. Because to be fair, she was wildly immature when she came on to the show for the first time. And it's been fun for me as somebody who, like, I wasn't casual because I don't think I've ever been a casual viewer, but I wasn't like a super fan where I looked into everything. I'd map things out. I just enjoyed the show for the show. So when I started doing this more like in depth, I was like, let's watch Rachel's stuff instead of watching it like just her season of Big Brother and her 2 seasons. Then I'll go watch Amazing Race. Let's watch everything in order.
Yeah.
And you can see her emotional progression as it goes on. She is wildly immature in BB12. They brought her and Brendan onto Amazing Race because they're like, this is going to be amazing. She did a little bit of maturing, but ultimately kind of went back to her old ways in her first season of Amazing Race. Then we got her back for, actually, I think that aired after BB13, but we got BB13, and I think that was filmed somewhere around there. You saw a very similar kind of character arc where you saw lots of old Rachel come back, but you saw lots of parts of her that matured. When you saw her for the second time, she did was it Unfinished Business or All Star? She did one of those, I can't remember which one, for Amazing Race, and she was a very different Rachel. Yeah. Like talking Brandon out of emotional situations where I was like, girl,
like, who is this? Who are you?
She helped emotionally support Margie and Luke, who were a mom and her deaf son, and like they formed a very strong bond.
Completely unrecognizable in Traitors.
In Traitors, all we saw was just her old maniacalness that we all know and love, but she was not the same person at all.
No. And oh my gosh, who was it that was so nasty to her?
Brandy
was so nasty to her, and old Rachel would have just
Kate Chastain.
Yeah, and she I mean, it wasn't like kill him with kindness per se, but she would just
laugh it off.
She laughed it off a little bit. Yeah,
she was funny to her because she knows bigger villains than them, and I think they're like, we could. Kate Chastain will be great on House of Villains. Just thought.
That's another good one for House of Villains.
Anyways, but like I feel like that was like she's like, I've dealt with people who are nasty to their core. I think I can handle this.
Sorry, the 130 is showing up.
Oh, the 130 showed up for me in the middle of the live, and I was like, if I don't like take a nap right now, I might be in trouble. But we're good now. I think I'm running on fumes. As soon as I come home later, my head is going to hit a pillow. Yeah. Oh, so much fun. So yeah, love them. I could talk about them all day.
Yeah, same. Absolutely iconic. Who do you have for number 6?
I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about with this one too, because this is Chilltown.
Cool.
Boogie and Will from seasons both 2 and 7. I mean, where do you even start with these two?
All right, being objective. Being objective here. They are an iconic duo. Everyone talks about them. If you watch Big Brother, you know who they are. And being objective.
That said,
that's all I have to say.
No, because I think there's lots more you want to say, girly. No, but also, I know it's really hard because
knowing what you know now. I mean, if you want to call like a duo, like a stalker and his victim, you know, like that's cool. That is, they are technically a duo.
Well, I also just kind of like, I mean, it was fun to watch. They were just maniacal. But I also look back
using the showmances though. So they did some, like we talked about them in Top Villains too. Is like they did things like using showmances to advance in the game, not and using these women to like and bragging about
their own allies, and be proud of it, and then they go and brag about it in the diary room, and it's like, it's one thing if it's like, yo, because Danielle is coming after me next week, I need Danielle out this week, but it was just because it's like, it was more about, guess what, Erica's HOH, and I think I'm gonna send out her best friend Danielle, and it's like, that's such a choice. It's maniacal. I mean, I was probably fun feeds. I was not there for that. But
it's like, also coming from somebody who lied about cancer for game reasons. Yeah. So, like, I mean,
you know,
I love a cutthroat player. I love a player that will do anything to win that money. And when I say anything, I don't mean this though. I just don't mean this. Like there's some lines, and they definitely found and crossed every single one of them. Their DRs absolutely fed production. I understand that. I understand that they were characters and the audience loved them for that. But knowing what we know now, it's really gross. I can't think of, I mean, there have been a lot of gross Big Brother players. And they're up there for me. I have a hard time finding ones that beat them.
I wish I could disagree.
Like both of them could be on House of Villains if I wanted them to have work, but I don't.
Well, I mean, Dr. Will has worked with some controversial people outside of Big Brother, so I mean, that's a thing.
Take with that what you will.
Yeah. I don't know, but Chilltown really does have an important place because they were one of the first duos to ever form. Actually, it started as a trio because Shannon was part of Chilltown in season 2 for like a hot minute when she was in that showmance with Will, and then she scrubbed the toilet with Hardy's toothbrush, and then she was gone.
Yeah.
So that was entertaining, but and I loved when Boogie tried to redo Chilltown with Frank. And by love I mean hate. Like.
Yes.
It made me like, I was like, the way they tried to do the bring, I was like, please
don't.
Please put that away.
Hang that up.
We don't need it.
Hang up the phone.
Especially
color blocked.
But you want to know something? Frank fits so well into Chilltown. He is like the perfect addition. Not saying he is part of this duo, but just saying for Chilltown 2.0, he fit like like he was that last little puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, that's Chilltown. Let's go to number 5.
I want justice for Davon so bad. Okay.
Yep.
Speaking of, oh my gosh, I did not mean to do that. You said Frank. I immediately think justice for Davon. But speaking of Davon and Bailey from season 22. Season 22 didn't give us hardly anything, right?
No.
It was All Stars, and it was so hard to watch. At times, it was really rough. I got Ian back on my screen, and I was so here for that. Oh my God.
It was fun until he like got bullied. I'm not saying it wasn't fun to watch him after because I still loved it, but like it was just.
That's what I'm saying. Like I was so excited to have Ian back, and then the way that all went down was just horrible. But we're here to talk about Davon and Bailey, who, speaking of like trauma from season 22, so Christmas was working with Bailey and Davon. There was absolutely no reason for this move to be made. But they were betrayed by Christmas by being targeted and put on the block. And this was kind of in the height of Tyler was trying to make up with Bailey for season 21 and 20.
You're good.
1:30, guys.
All right, we're trucking through.
For season 20, he's trying to like make up with her, and he felt awful that they were on the block, and he was going to self-evict. The casual audience, so they thought they might stay because of that. The casual audience immediately attacked him for that, calling it performative. I'm going to play devil's advocate here, knowing what I know in covering the show. And we talked about this earlier too, is that self-evicting is very, very hard. Not anyone can just walk into the diary room and say, I want to self-evict. And they say, okay, here's the door. They put you through the ringer. And not just that, but they also threaten you within an inch of your life. Like you're going to be blacklisted. If you self-evict, you will not be coming back to any of our shows. That's contract, that's money, and Tyler at the time, you know, had a lot of potential. He went on to do the challenge multiple times, and there was all of those things.
Even though he swore up and down that he would never do reality.
And
I think it's because he was salty about it.
It's not even just about, because of this and what they put him through. He went into the DR. He was in there for a very long time. But what they don't tell you is that when you try to self-evict, especially if they need you there, they want you there, you're a player that they make a lot of in one way or another, they will do psychological warfare to keep you in. They will do all sorts of manipulative games. It's not just threats. It's whatever will speak to you. You've got this. You know what? The public wants this from you. They want.
Can you imagine how great it would be to just have this come back? You know,
yes, or they're going to be so upset with you. People are going to be more upset with you for quitting than you staying and helping Bailey and Davon or whoever makes it out of this eviction. Like, they will pull all the stops out. So I'm not going to go in on Tyler for any of that. I think that's genuinely what he felt in the moment. And I don't think he needed to sacrifice his game to make up for something 2 seasons ago. I think for a misunderstanding he had with Bailey 2 seasons ago, which that's ultimately what it ended up being, is a misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. But I think that this whole thing was just very tense for a lot of people and a lot of viewers, and it was very hard to watch. We wanted Bailey there. We wanted Davon there. We wanted to see these 2 women work together and have longer to work together because they were both iconic in their own seasons, and to get them in the same room, like this was again pre-diversity initiative. This was the season before we got the cookout. So this was a rare opportunity and no one wanted to see this happen. And Bailey and Davon going out was a really, really, really tough episode for season 22. And if I'm remembering correctly, this is one of the seasons that it just kind of all went downhill from there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I wish we got more out of Bailey and Davon. That was that. I think you took all the words out of my mouth. No, you're so.
I had a lot of words.
No,
It's funny because I didn't make any notes for that one because I just knew.
She was like, "I'm just gonna rattle this whole
I'm just gonna rant because I got lots to say here."
Yeah, I might just defer all of that to you. I don't know if I could just. It's so. I think I struggle to find words when it comes to them because I don't want to do, like you said, I don't want to just make it like a whole anti-Tyler thing.
No.
The only thing I'll say,
Christmas is the one that betrayed them.
Yeah.
And the reason Christmas did it, on paper, Christmas had reason to do it. Let's be honest. We all have our feelings about Christmas now, and who she is. But, you know, I think at the time she was just targeting duos. And
which isn't a bad strategy.
No, there are no showmances in this season. There are no, like, you have duos, and Bailey and Davon were a strong duo. And I don't think it was necessarily best for her game to make that move in that week because she was working with them and they were loyal to her, which is what made it so hurtful to them. But
well, it's Christmas being Christmas.
It is Christmas being Christmas. And we all know from her. And I actually wanted Christmas on this season. I wanted her to have a season where she wasn't injured and didn't have Paul to follow.
And then she found Memphis
and then
instead.
She found Memphis. So
that went well.
All right. Well, who do you have for number 4? We're in the top 5 now. So
Dick and Danielle, season 8.
Nice.
And season 13, technically, Dick didn't actually end up playing more than I think 8 to 10 days because he ended up. That was also back in the time when like week 1 was like 2 weeks long, and so like there was like somebody on the block for like a whole ass week before they even like
like House of Villains.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or for 3 weeks in this case, but
and so it was like I can't remember the specific day, but it was like day 8 or 10, and Evil Dick ended up leaving the game. The time they didn't reveal it was because he tested positive for HIV. But what we really got, that was the big bummer because Dick and Danielle in season 8 were something else. And I think they're probably the most unique duo on our list because, and maybe not the most, I'd argue that way, but I could totally see why not.
The fact that he was her estranged father.
Yes.
And they trapped her in a house with him as part of a twist is so problematic on so many ways.
Yep.
You could see the pure terror in her eyes when he was in there. It just completely ruined it for her that she was just she did not want to be in this house with him. And I remember even rewatching this season as many times I rewatch it. Every time those first 2 episodes are so hard for me to watch just because of all of the emotions that she's feeling. I feel like I can feel them. I mean, it ultimately ended up working out for them, but like they don't have a relationship now, do they?
Oh no. And what happened is every single time they've gone off the show, they've lost the relationship they had. So when they got on 13, everybody's like, oh my God, are you guys still friends? Are you still doing? And Dick literally looks at everybody from the balcony of the HOH room and he goes, yeah, guess what? We haven't talked in 3 years. Haven't talked since the last damn season.
But see, that's kind of one of those things, like, I'm sorry that I feel, and I'm not scared to say it, I feel like Dick's relationship with Danielle and the reason he was a villain that people wanted to root for was because of those tender moments he had with Danielle. I think it's all performative. I think everything about him wanting to be her dad is performative. It was for the cameras. And I feel like he went back to being a shit father or shit dad or not a good person to have in her life after the cameras were off. And I feel like that checks out for what we know about him now. I
agree. I think all I'll say about that, because like I just don't want to speculate. There's been a lot of things that they have both put online and deleted about each other.
Yeah.
That has landed on Reddit.
And
so if you really want to find that,
I could be biased though, but ultimately he's the dad. He's her dad.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, like he's the grown up in this situation. She's a grown ass woman. I get that, but I'm saying that something went terribly wrong. And bottom line, she obviously has some trauma from that. I feel like maybe season 8 could have been healing and hurting for her too. They did have a lot of moments in that season that were really vulnerable, but I just don't know how genuine they were for it just to.
I agree. I was, again, not a season I was able to watch on the feeds where I can go back in my memory and be like, well, I remember this moment, so blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm always one that I think, you know me, I'm like I'm just a hopeless optimist. Like,
yeah, same. And I can be the house guest apologist with the best of them. I feel like that's a season I've watched enough times, and knowing what I know about family dynamics, and relationships and parental relationships at that, and maybe my bias from being a parent myself.
Totally. And I'm not here trying to just be like, well, let's defend it. I'm just saying, like, I
feel like in my gut, though, I have this feeling that, like, I don't know how genuine or how easy it was for him just to go back to his old ways when the cameras weren't there feeding it on, or he wasn't trapped in a house with her.
It's like, I wish we could know without having cameras, and that just won't happen. What happened? What was the relationship like? Because we do acknowledge, as much as Big Brother brings out your real self, there are pieces that do change when you get on the show. And a lot of it is like, who are you in front of a camera versus off? And like, you can tell some people, like Dick, I mean, was not afraid to just be himself. And I don't think Danielle was either. But I think there were pieces of herself that she also kept, not hidden, but he was just an open book. She was like, I mean, I'm like open to chapter 5.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can get to chapter 10, but but we'll let you read this far, and we'll see how you go.
Yeah.
And what assumption. But so again, just very unique. And ultimately, because they then made it to the end, you know, I'll have to check that stat. I said at the beginning that like Dan and Memphis were the first of their kind, but I'm not sure after going through the whole list, like after that, because like Dick and Danielle weren't like, yay, we get to work together. But
no, that was a long time coming.
But they were aligned. They were. He
kept trying, and she kept rejecting, and eventually she kind of caved when she had nobody else.
Well, true. And it was literally because she had nobody else that she was forced to work with him. Yeah. So I'm not saying that like she was willingly like, yay, let me go work with Pops. It was literally like,
I have no one
else.
Guess
we got to do this. Yeah. So. And no dig at Big Brother Wiki or anything. I'd be curious to know like how that is defined, because it's interesting to talk about those kinds of things and like see those kinds of stats.
Well, I'm gonna hit us with number 3.
We're in our top 3 now,
and I'm so sorry, but number 3 is the Hitman.
No, thank you. No thanks.
Derek and Cody from season 16. Listen, season 16 was my first season with the live feeds. I am going to be objective here. It was rough in many areas. I personally think this duo should have been called something more along the henchman. Because you had Derek calling the shots, Cody winning the comps, and telling Cody what to do with said power.
Cody still, I think, to this day, thinks he did more than he actually did. And it's like, you do know we all watched the feeds, right? Like,
yeah,
you didn't really make certain. He helped verify some things that Derek would be worried about. Like, he definitely did some work to help with the relationship, but ultimately it was Derek making the moves.
Yeah, and if I'm being objective here, in the feeds, Derek was actually, he was brilliant at these conversations that he would have in the house and how persuasive he could be without being overbearing and too assertive, where he was like taking control. Yep. He had a talent at making people, planting ideas in people and hoping that they implemented his ideas, if those seeds would grow. And he always knew when to not push if it didn't pan out. So if he made a suggestion of a way he wanted the vote to go, most of the time people agreed with him or eventually would come around to his way of thinking. But if it didn't, he didn't freak out about it. He just kind of let it go, which helped him stay under the radar as long as it did. Mm-hmm. The only person he ever really trusted in the house enough to confide in these plans and any kinds of these plans was Cody. I think that Cody's biggest detriment at the end was taking Derek as far as he did. If Cody and Victoria were sitting in the final two, Cody would have won.
He made that choice the right time the second time, though.
He did.
Kudos to him for that.
He learned, for sure. It does hit different. There were areas that they did not show on the episodes that was showed in the feeds that are not my favorite things. I'm not saying Derek or Cody are bad guys or whatever. I'm not the biggest fans, only because of what we do. Okay, I'm just going to say it. What we do requires us to be a lot more informed than the casual viewer. We are watching the feeds. We are analyzing not just the competitions, but the social, the aftermath, the veto meetings, the one-on-one talks. And the more important than the one-on-one talks are the non-formal talks. These are the bedroom talks where two people are just hanging out on their beds and they're talking it through. Those are the most important conversations. And those, because who you're talking to is going to be the most off guard. And those conversations are what makes a true, like a good game player. Mm-hmm. And no one knows that better than Derek, because Derek did that constantly in the house. So for him to be currently out here in the BB streets, only watching the produced episodes and forming opinions on players that are in the house, and not just this season, but past seasons, without getting any context from the feeds and finding out what conversations are those happening, he is just seeing what production is feeding him through the episodes. And most of the time, I feel like he's not even watching all the way through.
No, you can tell based on some of the comments that he makes.
Yeah, that
he's not
missing,
even he's only half paying attention.
Yeah. So that is where I'm kind of like, no, it is very disappointing as a fan, because I feel like during season 16, I was probably Derek's biggest fan. Derek is the,
oh my God, same.
Derek is the reason I found my passion for this show. And when I watched him on the feeds and I watched those conversations and I would watch those seeds being planted and see them go through, and then could see him confirm in these DRs and camera talks and to talks with Cody that what was happening is actually what I thought was happening was actually happening, that this was all very intentional social gameplay.
Right.
It was what sparked my love and passion for that element of the game and for the live feed side of the game. So it's kind of like, don't meet your heroes, I've never met him, but seeing his stance and his comments in the podcast and the things that are being said right now is just really, really, it's extra disheartening, because I owe my fandom to him, how it started. And, the fact that I so strongly disagree with him now, and what damage he is doing
so frustrating
to the current state of the game. We are in a situation where the game has geared more towards competition wins, less towards social, and production is feeding into that, when you have the Dereks out there who are icons in this game and Cody's that are out there supporting that side and feeding into that narrative by talking and valuing players based on their competitions, which Derek barely won.
I know. And I just have to say, they were not kind toward Taylor last season either.
No.
And that's actually one of the things that really was like, and I'm not trying to just say like, look, Taylor deserved plenty of criticism for lots of plays that she made in the house. I was like, her whole HOH was a big old mess. And I was like, girl, I love you, but what are you doing?
Messy.
And that's fine. Go criticize her. But they were just, they were falling into the she's a pageant girl shit. They were stereotyping her without even watching the feeds. And they openly were like, yeah, we're not watching the show. Then they were doing exit interviews with people.
Yeah.
Glad they aren't doing that this season. From what I can tell, I haven't paid attention, to be very fucking fair.
No, they have not.
Good. Well, I feel
they're now doing like lives during the episode.
I feel like it just became too much
like,
work.
well, you're going to miss even more now because you're paying attention to your live and not the
and
episode.
You're talking to people.
Yeah.
Like, and so
it's just unfortunate because Abigail and I have this platform, but we're nobody in the BB space. We're not former players. We don't have a loud voice here. And when you have a voice that could actually influence production, I feel like you're just doing more harm going out there and speaking the way that they're speaking. Mm-hmm. So that's the last I have to say about them.
But I think they do have a proper place on this list. Top 3, I'd personally say I'd put them. No, I'd say I'd put them up there. It's just they're just not my personal favorite because of how everything panned out. But I'm with that. So I'll take off. We're at number 2 now, and this I'm sad this one isn't number 1, but I hope number 1 is going to be worth it. This one is Danielle and Jason from season 3. This is I love this. I love this duo. And
I love Danielle, but I honestly have very little memory of season 3. So like,
I mean, it's been a while.
You could jog my memory.
It's been a while since I've seen season 3 too, but like it really, they were the first alliance to run both sides of the house and do it successfully without people pegging them as a secret alliance. And that was really one of the most fascinating things about their season, also because when they were on opposite sides of the house, they were totally different people to the other house guests than they were to each other. Yeah. And I think that was the most beautiful part of the relationship.
When that happens.
Well, and then now they're both like, he's doing exit interviews with Hannah Shada, and like she's like, hey, who wants me on their shows? She's a boss woman now. I mean, she just like, I look at her gym pics and I'm like,
oh, she looks fucking fantastic. How's she look younger now?
I don't know.
She looks younger now.
I don't know.
Than she did 22 years ago.
I love her.
Yeah.
I love her so much.
Yeah.
But, and so it was a lot of, and I thought what was really great was that, I mean, I think Danielle is classic mastermind, but she wasn't the only person masterminding things. Her real big thing was just that she was going into DRs and counting things down, and she was just the big villain that ultimately people didn't want to see win. But Jason didn't make the final. Jason got cut right before the final. And I just, that's one of the bummers that I wish that we had those two in the final, because that would have been a hell of a vote. I would have loved that. But really, I just think they were so iconic in terms of how they showed people what the game can be like, how you can run this game. And it doesn't have to be, and we see plenty of other strategies. They're just two masterful people at this game who somehow came together and gave us just, they gave all season. It was incredible.
I want to go back and watch season 3 now.
Maybe we should do that for a rewatch.
That would be a fun one. Yeah.
Because also we've been talking about rewatching 5 all the way through.
3 and 4 are probably like farthest in my memory.
Same. And then 5, I would only say 5 isn't, because we had to do like recent stuff 4 or 5. But besides that, 5 is also there for me. 3, 4, and 5 I haven't watched in quite some time. But it's so fun to reminisce on this couple. They are just everything. So I couldn't say enough positive stuff. Are we getting? We're all getting sleepy in here tonight.
I'm staring into the light because. Ooh. All right. I got number 1 though, and number 1 I wholeheartedly agree with was Janelle and Kaser. Iconic duo. I absolutely love them.
Love that.
We got to see a lot of that relived this year with the pressure cooker and bringing back those memories. Janelle and Kaser were incredible to watch together, but even more incredible was the aftermath. So Kaser's eviction, coming back in, Daniel just being elated, and then the pressure cooker where Kaser totally got fucked over, but then for Janelle to immediately win the HOH after, give me that key, and
bye bitches,
and like all the iconicness that came from it. The fact that they got to work together again in season 22, well, and 6, 7, and 22.
Yep.
Yeah, like just I love seeing them both on 22. That was fun. It was fun seeing them on the feeds. I remember it being such a surreal moment for me because I loved Janelle from the get-go. So I watched season 15 was my first season. Season 16 was live feeds. But before I went back into before season 16 started, I went back and watched all the other seasons. And season 16 was my first one to kick in the live feeds too. I remember immediately loving Janelle, feeling like I was in the presence of power when she was on the screen. I love everything about Janelle. Like wonderful casting decision, period. And then to see her in season 22 in a room with Kaser, and I'm watching the live feeds, and she's laying on a bed, her red bottoms are showing, and I'm just like vibrating, so excited. I just couldn't, like, just they're together again, and here she is laying on the bed in her red bottoms like a boss bitch, calling the house exactly how it was. Like, she will never not be one of the most iconic Big Brother players ever to me, and having her with Kaser was just, it's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. Actually, the only note I made for this top one was say less. Say less, because same. Number one, same. I can't think of anybody who would even remotely be close to number one on my list.
Yeah, I'm glad that this is number one, because I was like, I don't know who's this going to be, but this was it is 2 in the morning almost.
I'm so glad that it was I got to do the odds, and I got number one this time, because I just can't say enough about her. I love them so much.
And they were, especially when they first paired up in season 6, it was beautiful because they were such an unlikely pairing. A lot of people just didn't, and it was like, especially like Kaser was coming in the house as I want to say that was when the surge was happening in the Iraq war, and it was like Iraq and Afghanistan war, and it was talking about like, hey, like, I'm a person from the Middle East, like, here's what my life is like, and then she comes in as just the blonde bombshell American dream girl, and it's like, it was wild to see those two glom together and literally just like sit together and hate on the whole house together and just be like, fuck everybody. Yeah. And
they were like
beautiful.
A more gorgeous version of the two grumpy men in the balcony on the Muppets. Absolutely. And I was just like, and that's who Serena and Felicia are this season. I love it. I'm here for
Live for it.
Read them all. Library, is open.
Perfect. So yeah, and
reading is fundamental.
That's really one of the things.
Fundamental. It's 1:55. It's 1:55.
Yeah, that was really a really great selection. I gotta say, the panelists did a really good job with this list.
Can you think of anybody who didn't make the list?
Trying to. I think that I probably could. I mean, I'm not gonna say that I put them on the list. I know people are gonna ask where Jeff and Jordan are, where they belong off the list.
Dan and Ian,
I think technically still should be off the list, but I think is an honorable mention.
No. I love how they were working. They were working together, but working against each other. And that's what made it iconic to me.
Love it. I'm trying to think more, like, I'm trying to move forward in, like, other seasons, like season 15. Season 15, we don't fucking touch. No.
I mean,
of actual duos,
Michael and Brittany And I'm sorry, that's my bias speaking, but they were a joy to watch on the feeds.
An honorable mention for me. I totally put them up there.
Yeah, that watching them on the feeds and super fan geeking out with them through my live feeds was a real treat for me.
The Minutemen do not have a spot.
Tiffany and her chessboard.
Yep. Sari in her robe. Just kidding. And
Zach and Frankie.
Oh, that's a good one. That's another really good honorable
fed
mention.
on those feeds, man.
Yeah, that's another really good one.
Our good friend Tommy and Christine.
Damn, you're just knocking these out.
I could do this all day. Tommy and Christine. Tommy was just on our live. But Tommy and Christine, I would say iconic feeds duo. But Zach and Frankie, come on now. The bromance, not bromance. Actually, a little
sad that one didn't make the list. To be quite fair, a little sad, but
I would have had clips for them. Paul and his duck float, but
I was gonna say, are you gonna say Paul and who from 19 though? Because like everybody thought they were Paul's
his friendship bracelets.
Hashtag friendship.
But yeah.
I think that's all we got for you guys today. So that wraps up this very special episode of Wicked Unscripted. We want to thank you again for all your support and encourage you to spread the word about this awesome Patreon, all this work that we do. We would really appreciate it because this is how we make little money. Yeah. And which is why we very much appreciate the support.
Next week, I won't be able to touch your face while we do this.
I'm not ready. You have to go to the airport in an hour.
This is true.
I can't even believe that.
I know.
This is the way we were able to squeeze this in the last is absolutely classic.
Trucking. This is the third episode we've recorded today, all for you guys.
So trust us, there's lots more to come. We'll probably start doing some Survivor stuff eventually, but we're gonna keep going with some Big Brother stuff at least. Through the panelists have like a lineup for us, so we're keeping that going for sure. And we'll probably do a different panel for Survivor to make sure we get some Survivor people in there. And it doesn't mean that panelists from BB can't be on it either. Totally just feel free, but be lots more to do. We're also regularly posting on TikTok, so make sure you check out our accounts. It's Abigail Adams and Sarah Talks Big Brother. If you want to ask us a question or share your thoughts or even leave us a tip, email the podcast at wickedunscriptedpod@gmail.com for more. That is wickedunscriptedpod@gmail.com for more. We are always looking for fresh and diverse voices to join the conversation. And with that, we'll see you next time.
Bye.